Hello and welcome. You're watching Faultlines. I'm Gaurie, Dwivedi, and in this episode, the focus will be on two clear fault lines. One that binds Turkey and Pakistan squarely against India. The second we will explore is the latest phase, the next phase of the Russia-Ukraine war, and why it is likely to be even more deadly than what it has been for the last 3 years. Viewers, the first story that we focus on is the nexus that came to fore during Operation Sindoor. India faced a situation of one border with three clear adversaries. It was Pakistan, China and Turkey. And now Pakistan and China nexus is not new, it's known, but in fact it is the one with Turkey that is even more important and needs to be prepared for. The two-front war that India has been preparing for since 2015 has now become a three-front war, and that's the focus on Faultlines today. And as we speak, the Turkish Defence Minister and Turkish Foreign Minister have just concluded their high-profile visit to Pakistan. Now, what's their aim? Their aim is to build a broader pan-Islamic brotherhood that ties the two countries together and possibly to double down on their defense ties. Now, what's at the heart of this? At the heart of this is their anti-India sentiment. Before we go any further, I want to first play out the soundbite of the Turkish Foreign Minister, and then we put all of this in context for you.
We have in Southern Asia. In April-May, there has been tension experienced between Pakistan and India, which we closely followed, and all the international society has seen the wisdom-oriented and calm attitude of Pakistan. This tension has been an important indicator that when two nuclear powers come face-to-face, that this is going to have very severe results. We have actually seen the ceasefire as an important decision, and in order to eliminate similar tensions, we believe that there has to be meaningful and efficient dialogue between the parties. As Turkey, we're always ready to support this so that there will be peace and there will not be any clashes.
All right, that was the soundbite that puts everything in context as to why this visit was so high profile, so important, and the reason why this fault line needs to be decoded. Now, viewers, ever since Erdogan came to power in 2003 in Turkey, Ankara has doubled down on its political Islam, its version of Islam, which, of course, has anti-India sentiment as at its very core. Now, this version of political Islam will continue to be the force through which Turkey wants to become the leader of the Muslim world. And this report tells you how Turkey and Pakistan have deepened their almost 75-year-old partnership and why this partnership now needs to be decoded in greater detail.
In less than 4 years of its birth, Pakistan, born out of undivided India on the premise of a separate nation for India's 95 million Muslims, signed a treaty with Turkey of eternal friendship. And since then, this alliance has continued to grow. And this alignment isn't theoretical, it's vocal, visible and documented. Only recently, Turkey has repeatedly taken direct aim at India, not just through weapon sales, but also on the world stage. From spinning tall tales against India at the UN to trying to influence the OIC contract group. Fast forward to today, Turkey supplies over 350 drones to Pakistan during its recent standoff with India. Pakistan, in turn, opens up its water for joint gas exploration, and the Chinese, well, they're not just watching, they're weaponizing this axis. Take Gwadar port, for example, a Chinese port in Pakistani hands protected by Turkish drones and positioned directly in India's maritime backyard. Each of them gets something. China tests weapons, Turkey expands influence in the Islamic world, and Pakistan, well, it just survives another day while beating India by proxy.
All right, viewers, that told you the partnership, how it has thrived in the last 75 years. And now it's time to decode What is it that lies ahead? First up, let's talk about the defense partnership, the deepening of the defense ties between Pakistan and Turkey. Now, Turkey is Pakistan's second largest weapon supplier, next only to China. Now, the second important part is that it also supports Pakistan's major naval modernization. There's a $1 billion plus deal that is for the corvettes. Then there are upgrades to the Augusta 90B submarines, all that in the pipeline, where the reason Ankara is so important for Islamabad. And third and foremost also is the fact that the Pakistani drone development relies very heavily on Turkish machinery. We've talked about the Bayraktar drones that we saw during Operation Sindoor. The backbone of that is this partnership, which is why this is so important. Now, that's the defense side of it. Let's now also talk about the specific arms sales that could be in the pipeline. This meeting is important. It's likely to have two clear implications. This could be one, the arms sales, the potential arms sales that could be there. Now, in small arms category, it could be the MPT rifles, which will have an impact as far as infantry modernization for Islamabad is concerned. Next could be the tanks that could have a huge boost to the armored capabilities of Pakistan. This could be the Alte MBT category of tanks. And the third and last could be the missiles, which would have a huge impact on the strike and air defense capabilities as far as Turkey is concerned. Now, why this is all important, one needs to also understand from a geopolitical side of it. As far as the defense side of it is concerned, we're going to try and get in my colleague Shivaru to decode this in greater detail. But the most important part one needs to understand is the strategic alignment as far as Pakistan and Turkey is concerned. We spoke about the defense side of it. This is the geopolitical aspect to it as to why this matters. Pakistan backs Turkey when it comes to its Saudi-UAE Muslim rivalry. That's the jostling that has been going on with Erdogan and some of its Gulf neighbors since 2003. And Pakistan helps Ankara there, and which is why this is so important. And the next part is it backs Turkey when it comes to its campaign against Greece in the UN. So this is a symbiotic relationship, viewers, we told you. There is the defense side of it, there's a geopolitical side to it, and the underlying theme and the backbone of that, of course, is the Pan-Islamic Brotherhood. Now, let me now get in my colleague Shivaru to talk more about the impact this has as far as the defense capabilities, the larger messaging. Shiv, we told our viewers as to why this visit is so significant, the importance of it, but help us decode what it could potentially mean from a war preparedness point of view.
This is a very important issue that you've raised, Gaurie, and the reason why the nexus between Pakistan and Turkey is so important is because, remember, Pakistan already has a literally endless supply of weaponry courtesy China, but by liaising with Turkey and as has been demonstrated visibly during Operation Sindoor, Turkey is not just a seller of equipment to Pakistan. There are all those geopolitical and strategic links that you just described. There is the Pan-Islamic Brotherhood that Erdogan has been looking for. But very, very importantly, Turkey's military-industrial complex has actually been remarkably successful. This is a country that's in a bit of the doghouse as far as the United States is concerned. But as a member of NATO, there are many other considerations as far as India is concerned for the fact that Turkey has not only been supplying attack drones to Pakistan, many of which were used mostly unsuccessfully against India during Operation Sindoor, but there are many other pieces of equipment, including possibly attack helicopters, tanks like you just mentioned, other ground equipment, air defense missiles, and other lower cost military hardware could find a very steady and reliable supplier in Turkey as far as Pakistan is concerned. So you have a situation where if hostilities break out, Pakistan can depend not just on China, but also on Turkey. Point number two is Turkey is looking at itself as a kind of rising regional sphere of influence in that area. The sticking point has been Greece. India did its own messaging recently as far as Cyprus is concerned. Ties with Greece have also increased, very much targeted at the manner in which Turkey is now looked at as a combatant and a hostile entity as far as India is concerned, even though we have close diplomatic relations. But the nexus between China, Pakistan and Turkey is one that needs to be looked at extremely closely. You had India's Deputy Army Chief explicitly call this out recently, which is unprecedented on many levels, but it will remain to be seen how it goes out. Remember, the one thing we'll have to look out is a very volatile, whimsical and unpredictable president sitting in the White House in the United States. And therefore, any actions or any strategies that India espouses or embraces in order to handle this entire nexus is going to be very dependent on what's happening in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely, Shiv. Thanks much for breaking that down for us. NDTV's managing editor, Shiv Arur, giving us that lowdown in terms of why this is significant and why this is so important. Now, viewers, Turkey isn't just flexing regional muscles. It wants to be the leader of the Muslim world. And to get there, Erdogan needs loyal allies. And in his rivalry with the Saudis, with the Emiratis, it's going to be the Pakistanis and the Malaysians who are going to be handy for Erdogan, which is why these bonds are getting forged over political Islam and their shared hostility towards a Hindu majority but a secular India. Now, what's the plan? The plan is to shout down India, isolate it diplomatically, flood global forums with false narratives. But what's the thorn in their side? Well, a rising, confident India willing to call Turkey's bluff. India backed Cyprus in Erdogan's backyard. It is supporting Armenia against the Turkey-backed Azerbaijan. The message is loud and clear for Erdogan. But India needs to continue with its deft diplomacy, viewers, because it's not just Pakistan. Turkey's tango now extends to Bangladesh, where two defense industrial corridors are on the table and several high-profile visits are also likely. So this nexus that we spoke about, it extends from Pakistan to Turkey to China and possibly to Bangladesh as well. Blinkers, viewers, are finally off. All right, on that note, viewers, a quick break. We return on the other side to talk more about the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the deadly phase it has now entered into. Viewers, the second fault line takes us to the very edge, where all battle lines are blurring and the skies have become the deadliest. Battlefield yet. This is no conventional warfare anymore. This is drone warfare at an unprecedented scale. An air assault that is measured not in missiles but in swarms. And it's rewriting the rules of modern combat. Swarm after swarm of drones and missiles. It's the largest drone attack yet. Russia launched over 700 unmanned weapons across Ukraine, including 300 that were supersonic missiles and supersonic drones that were fired. The target, well, it was not just the Ukrainian cities, but also the air skies, the bases, the energy hubs, all of it, and most importantly, the spirit. Well, Poland scrambled its jets. NATO was forced into complete alert. And once again, the world watched as red lines were once again being tossed and completely being bypassed. The aerospace also was violated. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, in fact, voiced his frustration in terms of why it looks like a possible deal on the table looks farther and farther away than what it did in the 3 years of this war. And we're going to decode that in detail. But first up, I want to play out that soundbite of Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Well, our strategy is to continue to engage all the parties that are involved in finding an outcome to this conflict. We will engage any time that we have an opportunity to do so, like we did today.
It isn't just about territory anymore. It's about a message. It's about telling Ukraine that as it fights back with interceptor drones and mobile squads, they are entering a new phase of a deadly war where speed, scale, and several other matrices are being tested, and they are the new normal. And this report tells you how drone warfare is changing the face of modern battlefield and why the end game may be soon and very soon out of reach as it stands. Take a look at this report.
The skies over Ukraine are no longer just an open space. They are war zones, trapdoors of terror. This week, Russia launched its most massive drone offensive yet. 728 aerial weapons, including decoy drones, surveillance crafts, Shaheds, Kinzhals and Iskander missiles. The goal? To overwhelm, to outpace and to outlast. President Zelensky calls it a new era of warfare where Ukraine's air defenses are being tested not by precision but by persistence. This is death by 1,000 drones, a tactic where volume substitutes for accuracy and exhaustion becomes a strategy. Ukraine's answer? Interceptor drones, mobile fire teams and homemade tech from 4 domestic companies designed to match and shoot down incoming waves. But as Zelensky pushes for a scaled-up production, Russia is moving fast, and its targets are more strategic than symbolic. This week's barrage hit Lutsk, near the Polish border. It's a critical lifeline for Western military aid. Poland scrambled its jets and NATO raised its alert. And while the West hesitated, the war evolved. This is no longer about tanks and trenches. Modern warfare now flies, it buzzes, and it never stops. Now the question is, how long can Ukraine and the world keep up?
This is what we must focus on first. We must stop Russian drones and missiles. And this means more air defense supplies and more investments in interceptor drones, air defense systems, and of course missiles. And I urge all our partners, increase your investments.
All right, viewers, we now talk about how diplomacy is now literally at a knife's edge as things stand right now in this war. And let's put that out because there have been repeated efforts as far as diplomacy and possible peace solutions are concerned. None look feasible right now. Let's put that out for you to understand. Now, first and foremost, they've traded some possible peace ideas. US and Russia, Marco Rubio and Sergei Lavrov, they've discussed some possible peace ideas. Nobody knows as to whether they are palatable on their end or not. So right now, there is no real peace deal on the table. Next up, Donald Trump has actually slammed Putin's, yes, he said that. We've put those asterisks and stars for you to understand. This is what Donald Trump is. He said that in so many words. He's voicing his frustration. This is a president who said that I'm going to end this war in 24 hours. It's nowhere close to actually being possibly ending anytime soon. And that frustration that is being voiced tells you that America is also having its back to the wall, running out of options. Next up, Republican hawks are now rallying behind Donald Trump to be able to, for some tough sanctions against Vladimir Putin. If that happens, look at the huge departure that America itself would have gone in terms of policy, because here Donald Trump was talking about sanctions waiver for Russia, saying that Putin is going to help him solve several problems as far as the Middle East is concerned. Now there's a potential sanctions on the Russian president himself. Listen in to what some of the Republican lawmakers had to say when they were pitching for those tough sanctions.
July is going to be the magic month for bone-crushing sanctions on Vladimir Putin. He better get ready, because his economy, already on its heels, is going to be hit hard by these sanctions.
President Trump has earnestly reached out to Putin. I applaud his efforts to end this brutal bloodbath in Ukraine. When it takes willing partners, Ukraine has been willing, Putin has not.
I think you'll find in the Senate broad support for Ukraine. I think the president trying to be a mediator just simply hasn't had the success that all of us hoped he would have. Now it's time to face the fact that Mr. Putin wants war. He has no intentions of stopping, as many of us have said from day one.
Next, what is the kind of sanctions and tariffs they're looking at? 500% as far as some of those Putin backers are concerned. That tells you nothing but America's frustration, because as I said, there is no peace deal on the table. Let's move ahead and tell some of the other 2 points that tell you why diplomacy is on a knife's edge. Trump blames chaos on own team's missteps. If he feels that things could have turned out differently had they handled the situation better. Lastly, now, Zelensky is pressing for both EU and the US for some sort of an urgent backing. Remember, there's also been back and forth as far as whether or not Ukraine should get weapons. If it's getting weapons back, then look at the kind of departure that the war has itself taken, because Donald Trump said he's not going to give weapons to Ukraine till about 3 weeks back. As I said, diplomacy is on a knife's edge, and let's get in Fred Meyer to talk more about this. He's a journalist joining us from Russia. Mr. Meyer, thanks so much for speaking to NDTV on Faultlines. My question to you, sir, as things stand right now, after the drone attack, it looks like peace is farther away than what it was in the last 3 years.
Well, yes, I think the basic problem here is that Russia is convinced it will win this war in the long run. These massive drone attacks show that its war economy can sustain the production of these new weapons at such an astronomical scale. And the Russians have spelled out their war objectives rather clearly in several occasions. Putin, his foreign minister, other officials have made it really clear what their bottom line war objectives are. And the Trump idea is, and Ukraine hopes that Trump can do this, he will step in, use his influence with Putin to obtain concessions for Ukraine that Ukraine couldn't win on the battlefield. So I think in the past week or so, the conversation with Trump and Putin made it clear that he is not backing down on any of his major war objectives. Either they will be delivered over a negotiating table, or Russia will hang in and win them on the battlefield. So that is where things stand, and I think that we can only look for greater escalations of the war in the weeks to come.
All right, let's leave it there. Mr. Fred Meyer, thanks so much for speaking to us. Hopefully the next time we'll talk about more peace options rather than battlefield really providing all the solutions. Well, viewers, as things stand right now, where does this all end? Well, as of now, there are no answers. 3 years into this war, battlefield has changed beyond recognition. Trump is frustrated with Putin, and Republican lawmakers are begging for more sanctions. But what's at stake here is political capital. Political capital of Donald Trump and political capital of Vladimir Putin. And as things stand, neither of them are backing down. Both feel that they can extract the best deal on the table. Unfortunately, there isn't one right now that is on the table. All right, viewers, well, that's a wrap on this edition of Faultlines. And with that, we're going to end this episode. We're going to come back next week with decoding more fault lines, more details that the world needs to now know in greater insight. Thanks so much for watching this.